just want to say first that I love LinkedIn, like a lot, kind of in a weird way. I think it is fantastic for so many reasons. So like I said, anything that I can't cover today, love to have a conversation with you outside of that. And forewarning, I'm working on my own profile right now, so it's not the best example, but I'm going to get it to the great example so that you all have that as well. But there's a lot of good ones out there. All right, I'm just going to start my screen share here. So this is just some rough numbers to give you all some context. About 94% of employers are recruiting through LinkedIn. And this is just one study, and I can give you all sources at the end. But virtually everyone's using it. Let's just put it that way. It's heavier in some industries more than others. As you can imagine, business type industries are using it a lot more than, for example, maybe elementary school education. But we're finding that more and more recruiters are using this tool. They roughly spend about 6 seconds looking at your profile, and 19% of that is looking at your photo. So we're going to talk about that a lot more later in the presentation, but your photo is very important. Also know that they get a recruiter's view. So we're going to talk about keywords later in the presentation, but know that recruiters are often not searching for you by name unless you have a connection with them already, but they're searching by keyword. So again, I'll talk about that in more detail. All right. Sometimes I try to change my slide on the wrong screen. There we go. Okay. So throughout this conversation, as Linda said, remember your brand or your image. Someone put a fantastic question. I think it was Michael, perhaps, in the group, which I'm going to address there about, being too cognizant of your brand. So I'll talk about that in the group, but fantastic question, Michael. But continue to think about throughout this presentation and when you're writing your resume and when you're building your profile about who your audience is. Always keep that in mind, the experience that you have, and then what makes you memorable. So I won't, because it's a little bit too hard to talk about any of your specific experiences, without me knowing them yet. I'm going to keep this pretty high level or pretty broad. But as we get into reviewing your profiles, we can definitely talk more about how you're incorporating what makes you memorable and making sure that your brand is a part of that. So a couple nice to know things. I'm going to be going back and forth between actually LinkedIn and this presentation. So forgive me if that transition is a little wonky, but two things that are great to know. You can turn off update alerts. And what I mean by that is while you're editing your profile, if you don't want people to see that you're making changes, you can turn that off. If this is your first kind of full-time job search outside of college, I would recommend not turning that off, because every time you update your profile, it's one more chance for you to hit someone's radar and get someone's attention. So I completely understand if you want to turn it off for little things, like if you're editing your headline over and over and over again, feel free to turn that off. If you are in a job right now currently and you don't want them to know that you're job searching, turning off this broadcast is a really good idea. But I would recommend, like I said, for now, if this is kind of your first full-time job search, go ahead and leave that on and embrace the obnoxiousness, because that means people are seeing you. You can also see your stats. So I'm going to try to show you that really quickly here on LinkedIn. It's a really cool feature, I think. So you can look right here if you're on your profile, and it'll say, 8 people viewed your profile. You can click on this. You all will get to see how many people look at my profile. You can see profile views in the last 90 days, and they'll show you this little graph here if you want to find out some more information. What's cool about it is also will tell you what you did. So I can't scroll off this, but over in this right-hand corner here, oh, there we go. Over in this right-hand corner here, it'll say, you commented on 5 group topics, you added 3 connections, etc. So you can get a sense of what you're doing that's working for you. But that's kind of just a little nice to have thing. You can also see who is viewed, within certain organizations. What's cool is you can see up top if you post, and I'll tell you more about posts later, you can see that. And then you can also see how your profile ranks against other people. Now, for me personally, I don't care so much about moving up in the ranks, but what's awesome about this is that I can go to these people's profiles and see what they're doing really well. so I can kind of steal what they're doing well for my own profile to make it better. I don't know if I'll ever move up to #1 or if that's your goal to move up to #1, but it is cool to see what people are doing well. All right, so I'm going to go back to this here. Sorry if I'm making you all, oh, of course. I have to click through, close your eyes for a second or something. Avert your eyes while I click through. Okay, so, oh gosh, it's going all the way back. Okay, hold that thought. I'm going to try this one more time. Okay, there we go. So hopefully you all see, should I upgrade right now? This is a question I get asked all the time from students and recent grads. Should I upgrade my account? Personally, I recommend you not upgrading at this point. Just stick with the free account. If you feel like you really are going to use LinkedIn as one of your major job searching tools, then it might be worth it for you. But I would say make sure you're comfortable where you're at right now and then upgrade. The benefits of upgrading is you get a premium badge next to your name, if that's something that's important to you. People like to tell us millennials that we're all about the trophies, so maybe this appeals to you a little bit, your LinkedIn trophy. But that is basically just to your next to your name so that people can identify you as a premium member. You can see more about who's viewed your profile. So oftentimes on the free account, you won't be able to see everyone who's viewed your profile, which can be a little bit obnoxious. But this would, if you upgrade, that will allow you to do that. There's something called Open Link if you upgrade, and that allows you to connect with anyone. Anyone that's joined Open Link says, I'm free to have you connect whether you know me or not. So that's kind of a cool feature. And then more search results. So you'll actually see more things when you search in that top bar, more people, more jobs, etc. So my advice, not worth the money quite yet. If you are an extensive LinkedIn user, then go ahead. I personally haven't upgraded yet. And as I told you, I have an undying love for LinkedIn. So keep that in mind. So we're going to be jumping around just a little bit, so bear with me here, but I want to try to cover as much as possible. So the idea of following people. You can follow companies, news, influencers on your profile. And this is something that Linda said about she likes that people put their interests on their resume. This is a similar idea. So if you follow specific companies, influencers, it can say a lot about you and who you are, maybe even outside of the professional world. So of course you want to follow all appropriate things, and I'm putting those in air quotes. I do that often while I'm talking to you all. But appropriate things, what you deem appropriate. But this is a really cool way for someone to get to know you a little bit more than just your professional experience. Okay, so as far as LinkedIn works, you have this thing called your network, right? One of the biggest benefits of LinkedIn is that you can manage your network. So you can manage people that you've met, people that you want to meet, etc. So you have you, of course. Then you have what's called a first connection. So this is someone that you know directly. So for me, Linda is one of my first, well, I hope Linda is one of my first connections on LinkedIn. So we are directly connected. I reached out to her, or she reached out to me and said, click that connect button on our profile. Then you have your second connection. So for example, this might be, Linda was talking about some recruiters that she knows. So I don't know that recruiter personally. I haven't connected with them, but Linda has, so that would be a second connection. And then every person that that recruiter knows is my third connection. So just so you all know, you're welcome to message your first connections at any time. And then there's some differing factors on who you can message outside of that, whether you have a premium account or if they've allowed that. So just keep that in mind. But you can message, which is basically email for LinkedIn or InMail. You can message your first connections at any time. So that's just a little bit about how that's set up. If you see anywhere on when you're doing your LinkedIn, if you see, this person's your first connection or your third connection, that's what that means. Should I connect with people? I don't know. Again, a question that I get often from recent grads and students. So There's some pros and cons to this. For me personally, if someone reaches out to me and it seems at least somewhat related to what I am doing or am about, I will connect with them even if I don't know them. My advice would be don't spam. So don't just go kind of off the wall inviting anyone you can possibly think of, because you're going to get known as someone that spams other people, and people can report you for doing that as well. You only get 3,000 invitations, and I say only a little bit sarcastically because that's kind of a hefty number, but just keep that in mind that if you decide to go out and connect with the world, you only get 3,000 invitations. So I would say just make whatever feels most comfortable for you, go ahead and do. For me, I don't mind connecting with people that I don't know as long as I could at least see why they might want to connect with me. If you don't want to connect with them, don't feel bad at all about turning that down. Let me just put out a reminder that if you are job searching again for kind of your first full-time role, I would be less concerned about turning people down than I would accepting. All right, so then there are groups. This is, to me, one of the most underutilized features of LinkedIn, and I'm just going to pop over again so I can show you kind of what I'm thinking about here or what I'm doing. Interests, that's what I was telling you about, following like companies, influencers. Then you have this groups tab. So Real Talk is one of those groups, so I won't spend too much time on this. But this is where you can join either professional associations in your field, or groups that you've set up, either like the alumni, the UO alumni group, which James is going to talk to us a lot about later on. Know that that exists as well. All right. I'm going to try to do this more gracefully than I did the last time, but let's be real, that might not happen. Oh, pun intended on the Real Talk there. Okay, so I apologize, avert your eyes again. I promise you I will figure this out. If anyone has any genius suggestions, let me know so I'll scroll through here. All right, so then recommendations. So just so you all know, I'm talking kind of broad about a lot of things right here. And then towards the end of the presentation, I'm really going to narrow down into your experience, your summary, your headline, a few more tangible takeaways. So just bear with me as we give the full scope here. Recommendations is one of my absolute favorite things about LinkedIn. So you can show proof for how good you are at things. Unlike on your resume, people are taking your word for the thing that you did well. With recommendations on LinkedIn, someone else is telling how great you are. So I would, and I'm going to recommend you all do this right now, is to think about 2 to 3 people that you could ask for a recommendation. This list here that I'm showing you, the 1, 2, 3, 4, that's how recruiters from a few studies have viewed the importance of a recommendation. So if it's from an employer, that's going to be one of the highest recommendations. If it's from a customer or an employee, that's going to be one of the second kind of most impressive recommendations. A colleague is third, and then friends, of course, or family is going to be last. So right now, just take a few seconds and write down 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 people that you can think of that would provide a good recommendation for you. All right, and then when I'm going to post this, or perhaps email it out to you. We're still trying to figure out if we can post documents in the LinkedIn group. But either way, when you get my social brand workbook, I give you a template on asking for these recommendations. So you can kind of just fill in the blanks if you want to. Made it really simple for you. But be sure, however you ask them, be sure to include the qualities you want them to highlight. So don't just say, would you mind giving me a recommendation? But say, I'm applying for marketing jobs. I would love if you could talk about my creativity and my strategic planning. I know that feels awkward, but trust me, your recommender will appreciate it far more than you can imagine. So there's the recommendations. And just for sake of time, I'm not going to switch back to the profile view, but know that on your profile, there's a downward arrow right next to view profile button when you're on the editing side of your profile. If you click that, there's a link that says ask to be recommended, and that's where you can go ahead and send out those requests. All right, so keywords. This is the way that employers find you. So Linda talked about this. We talked about this with your brand, thinking about who your audience is and what keywords are going to be really meaningful or important to them. Cool tip if you're struggling with figuring out those keywords. If you all have heard of word clouds, I know they're a little outdated now, but they actually can be great for this purpose. So if you have made a word cloud before, if not, you can go to Worditout, WORDITOUT.com, and make one for free. And what you can do is copy and paste the job description that you really want, put it in that word cloud, and what it will do is it will make the words that are most important or used the most large. So I just did this yesterday. I was looking at a job, and leadership came out as one of the, I should clarify, I wasn't looking at a job to leave this, but looking at a job in preparation for this presentation. And leadership was one of the biggest words that popped out. And so to me, if I don't have the word leadership on my profile or on my resume, it's likely that the people that I want to see my profiles will never see it. So you can also, cool tip, you can do this word cloud for your resume or for your LinkedIn profile, whatever content you include. And that will give you a really good idea of what words are popping out most to people. It can be a kind of a cool visual way to see what you're communicating. Just a heads up, I want you all to know, I know that we technically end at 1. I'm going to keep going and record this so that if you need to come back and watch it later, you're more than welcome to. I have about 3 slides left, so it's not too much if you want to stick around and listen. But know that I will post this recording so that you can come back and watch the rest of this if you need to. And then feel free, again, keep those questions coming, and I will answer them either here or in the LinkedIn group. Okay, so keywords. Choose about 5 to 10 keywords once you've thought through your audience and done either some of that word cloud work, and work them in naturally. So when we're reviewing your profiles and your resumes, we'll help you with this, but don't put like sales 10 times because you think sales is one of the keywords. Use them genuinely and naturally. The most high impact areas, in other words, the places that pick up on keywords the most, are your headline, your summary, your skills section, your job titles, and your job descriptions. So those are the 5 places, 5 places that you want to be sure you have keywords in them. All right, and like I said earlier, if I haven't already said this enough, this is how recruiters most of the time will find you. Okay, so now getting into your experience, the meat of things. After this, after I'm done with my slides, I'm going to walk over to my profile so that you can actually see what I'm talking about here. But I recommend, and this is what I'm working on changing in my own personal profile right now, is to attach your resume to your summary. So when you write in your summary, it will give you an option to attach a document. I personally would attach your full resume there, so a PDF version of your complete resume. And then in your descriptions, rather than copy and pasting what you did from your resume, actually give life to your descriptions. And what I mean by that is write in first person. Use I statements, talk to your reader, explain the 3 things I would make sure you do is explain your role, your responsibilities, and your greatest accomplishments. Again, I'm going to send you all some examples for these, but you certainly can if you're just getting your profile started. This is the first thing that I did as well, is I just copied and pasted my resume over. That's a perfectly okay thing to do. But if you want to bring it to the next level, actually write to your reader in that. Your LinkedIn profile is not to serve as your resume. So the cool thing is if you attach it to your summary, then you have it there if they want to look at it, and then you can give a little more life to your descriptions. If you're talking about a past position, you can discuss how it set you up for work now. So talk about those transferable skills. You know, like I gained my communication skills in this position, coordinating sorority recruitment. I know one of you did that. I gained communication skills here, and I think this is going to set me up well to communicate efficiently when I plan events in the future. Something like that. Again, include the keywords. If you don't have a current position right now, so if you are currently unemployed, you can do something that would be adding a position. So you're kind of going to make a fake position and say, I'm searching for, X, Y, and Z, and give some more details about what you're looking for. Some recruiters have mixed feelings about this, but if you do not have a current position listed on your profile, your profile won't be considered complete, and therefore you won't show up as much in recruiters' searches. So again, do what's right for you on this. Either add, the I'm searching position, or you can just not have a current position, and that's okay too. Just keep that in mind that will affect your search. For old positions or for less meaningful ones, feel free to just include the key skills you gained. And I'm going to show that to you on my profile, what I've done for some past positions. But that can allow you to steer away from trying to include everything you've ever done. I've included a link here, and I'll send it out to you all in the group. But this is a really good place. This person's profile, this is where I get a lot of my information from. She has added some bullet points on her profile that you can copy and paste into your profile. So if you're wondering, like, how do people get bullet points? Go to her profile, and then you can copy and paste the bullet into your experience sections. Really helpful. She has a bunch of choices for you. All right. So your summary, this is, think of this as your first impression. So like I said, I'll walk you through my profile in a second, but this is the first thing that people see right up top under your photo. So you want to ensure that this grabs the reader's attention. Oh, I have 2 number 1s there. That should be 1, 2, 3, 4. Grabs the reader's attention. You want to explain why you're great or the benefits of you. Highlight an achievement and tell them what to do afterwards. So you can go a little more flashy with this, or you can go a little bit more standard, whatever feels most comfortable for you and your brand. Flashy version would be something like, I love customer service. Turning unhappy clients into loyal customer advocates is my specialty, right? That's pretty bold. That's grabbing someone's attention. Or you can go more standard, introduce yourself similar to how you all did in the LinkedIn group. Whatever fits your brand and your audience best is what I would recommend. I give you a few sentence starters there for explaining why you're great. So, one of my strengths is, or I get excited about. Again, I'm going to give you some examples, but this is just a good way for starting that summary place. Then you have your headline. So if you all, right now, you probably have your headline as either your current job title or maybe UO student. I have it as my current job title right now. This is a way to make this, again, a little bit flashier, a little bit more standout. This is a structure that you can work through. So you start with an adjective like aspiring, then your current or dream title, perhaps that's account manager, an application or a skill set that you have, marketing background, suffix, strategizer, something like that, extracurricular activity, foodie, if you learn anything about me, I'm obsessed with food. And then an add-on, so change agent. So I'm gonna, again, I sound like a broken record, I'm gonna give you all these examples, but this can be a really cool way to make your headline much more engaging and impressive. I recommend, rather than having, recent graduate or UO student majored in whatever, I like the idea of having aspiring and then whatever title you are hoping to get. I think it's just much more inviting for a recruiter to look like, and it shows that you're driven as well. All right, so last but certainly not least, your photo. You want to make sure that it is appropriately professional. And what I mean by that is appropriately professional is going to be very different if you're working at a corporate finance office or if you're working into a creative advertising agency. So I would say find what's appropriate in your field that you're going into and then step it up one notch. So make it the professional version of that. If if the ad agency is where you're going, they might likely wear jeans and t-shirts. So I would step that up a notch and wear, a nice button-up shirt or a sweater or something like that. Make sure there's no obstructions or distractions if you can. So sometimes people choose to wear sunglasses in their photos and not for any need, but just, they think it gives them a cool factor. There have been many studies that have shown if you don't need to obstruct your eyes and you do, that can be a really big turnoff for people when looking at your profile. So try to avoid any, distracting shirts or backgrounds or sunglasses that are covering your eyes, anything like that. Smile, and I feel like your mom or, like your grandparent or something. Make sure you smile in your photo. And I recommend that not being the European smile. So there've been studies that have shown if you have, the closed mouth smile, that actually shows that you're showing contempt rather than, this warm welcoming. So try to smile with your teeth if possible, if that's comfortable for you. And then minimal editing and filters. So the last thing that people want to see is, some extreme filter going on. Save that for your Instagram account or Snapchat or whatever. I'm making myself sound really uncool because I actually have never used Snapchat. But keep those filters to your Instagram. I do use that. So these are just some examples of photos that have gotten kind of good reviews. Your profile is 7 times more likely to be viewed if you have a photo, so absolutely do that. And make sure it focuses on your head and shoulders. You don't need to do a full body shot by any means. Okay, so I'm going to take us out of this. It looks like we still have some of you watching, so I'll just go through this pretty quickly, but so you can see my profile, and I'll reference some of the things that I've been talking about here. So right here is how you change your photo if you're in edit profile mode, which you can just go right here, edit profile. So here's how you edit your photo. One thing I would highly recommend you doing is making sure that you claim your personal URL. So by that, you just hit this little settings. Oh, nope, I didn't mean to do that. Go back. Okay. It's actually, oh, it's still loading here. Okay, sorry, all. You do want to hit that settings, and then it's right over here on the right-hand corner. And you can actually put your name here. Courtney Ball was taken, so I just did the reverse. But this makes it a lot easier for you to put this link on your resume or send it out to people. Right now, if you haven't claimed your personal URL, it's probably a bunch of numbers of some sort. So just claim that with your full name or whatever name you feel most comfortable with. It's a good insider tip. I'm going to go back here to editing my profile. All right, so here, right here where I have Career Advisor, this is where I was showing you all about editing your headline. So this is considered your headline. So you can just go ahead and type in here. Again, you can copy and paste those bullet points, but if you want to use that format that I showed you, that's a really good place to make this a little bit more engaging. And then, of course, your place of where you're living or working, and then what field you're in. Definitely be sure to include that field there because oftentimes recruiters will search by that as well. Okay, so LinkedIn has done a cool thing now where they've added just every possible thing that you can add in these little boxes. So here's the summary that I was talking about. You can just write in your summary, add the bullet points if you'd like, and then I'll just show you here. After you save that as your first thing on your profile, you can add the document, and that's where I suggest adding the resume. So a PDF version of your resume right there. I'm going to go ahead and delete that before anyone happens to see it. Okay, so your summary, again, I gave you, I'll give you some templates for that, gave you some ideas already, but that is considered your kind of your first impression. Then you can add any of these other things. I recommend making your profile as complete as you possibly can. Languages, volunteer experience, volunteer opportunities. I always made a joke that I've never met anyone with a patent, and I actually did the other day, so I can't make that joke anymore. So if you have patents, please feel free to do that. Interests, again, posts. So I want to talk to you all just briefly about this, but posts is a really cool thing that LinkedIn just recently added. And think of this as kind of a personal blog, but in the professional sense. So rather than, a Squarespace or a Wix blog that you may have, WordPress, etc., you can post professional things here, and this will show up for your readers. This is really cool because if you are in a field perhaps that you want to get published or that getting published is important to you, or if you just like to talk about your professional work, you can put this out right here. Heck of a lot easier than getting published. I would say don't put anything confidential that you don't want out there yet. But this is a cool feature that they added so that you can do posts. It's kind of like articles for people to read. Okay, so then we have our experience. So you're going to edit your title, the location. If your location is in the system, it will also give you a logo, which is pretty cool right there. The dates that you've been there, and then what you can do when you hit add position, it will give you all of the boxes. LinkedIn has made it pretty intuitive to add information so that you can do that here. And then you can also, again, add documents. I recommend as visual as you can make this, the better. So if you have flyers from events that you've planned or presentations you've created, again, make sure nothing is confidential, but add those to the positions. It makes it really cool for the reader to get a better sense of what you've done. I want to tell you just quickly about how this is how recommendations will show up, by the way. This is what I was talking about that I did for old positions or positions that weren't as relevant anymore. I just put in some of those keywords, key skills that I gained so that people could, those would still show up in the search system, but I wouldn't have to write out a full description about what I was doing there. So that's another option for you as well. You can always add projects. One thing I'll say about your experience section really quickly is know that doesn't have to be paid experience. So if you did really significant volunteer experience that you weren't getting paid for, it's okay to make that an experience, just like a professional experience, rather than making that a volunteer experience that you did on your profile. Most recruiters have said that that's viewed to them just as equally. Unfortunately, Linda stumbled upon someone that was not, but most people said that that's viewed equally. You'll have your education. Just so you all know, you are welcome to move these as much as you want. So you can move them up, you can move them down if you want your education to be first. If you want your experience to be first, you can move those around right here. Just a couple other things. So skills and endorsements, you can go here and add a skill. And let's say you're like, oh gosh, what am I trying to say? Something about leadership, but I don't really know what it is. You can put that in, and then LinkedIn will give you lots of examples as to what that leadership is. Maybe it's strategic, maybe you're developing leaders. And this will give you a good sense of other skills that exist or related skills as well. So you might actually want to do multiples of these. Your connections can endorse you for your skills. So that basically means they're kind of like confirming, yes, you have this skill, and that's how this will show up here. Know that you can decline them to kind of endorse you if you want. That's perfectly okay. But this is another place for you to get some more of those keywords and a little bit more validation about you being good at what you're saying you're good at. All right, so that is the profile view. Hopefully I've showed you everything and made that very clear. LinkedIn can be confusing, so I understand. I'm going to just jump to these questions here quickly, and I will answer them here, and then perhaps we can also put them on the group. All right, so let me just get out of this. Face, red, as usual. Okay, so let me go to our questions here. Sorry, they're just not showing up quite yet. Okay, if you have a PDF and website version of your resume and portfolio, would recruiters prefer dealing with an email attachment or following links to the relevant documents within an email? Great question, Dan. Unfortunately, like many of our responses, I think it just varies on the person. Personally, I would do both. I would attach it and also include my link. If it's a website that you said, I would just include that link because I think that's very intuitive for people. But if, for example, you have your resume and then also a link to your resume at some point, I would just include both the link and attach it to your email. And if I'm, for any reason, not answering your questions as completely as you hoped or not correctly, let me know and I can re-answer them or have one of my awesome colleagues re-answer them for you. Okay, that was Clint's earlier follow-up, so I'll let that one, we can answer that one on the group. Oh, someone's giving me tips. Thanks, Dan. How to work my PowerPoint. I appreciate it. Oh, yes, this is great. So Dan mentioned that a lot of times you can, for the most part, everyone on LinkedIn can get a premium account trial for a month. I've done that before. So great way to test out if you want a premium account. Just make sure you cancel it before they charge you. But that's an excellent way for you to see if upgrading would be a benefit to you. I ended up doing that and deciding it wasn't worth it to me. So thank you, Dan. That's awesome. Michael asked, where exactly is the headlines section? I'll show you one more time if I didn't. I think you might have gotten it already, but just so you can see, the headlines section is right here. So this, usually people put their job title, but this is where you can make it more dynamic, is right there. All right. On the experience description, would you use the same bullet points that are on your resume, or would you suggest a job description including duties? Okay, so Linda, hopefully I answered this for you already, but if you can, I would recommend not just copying and pasting your resume. If you want to start there, that's perfectly okay. But eventually I would write it in first person. So, you know, on your resume, you might say something like managed event coordination. On your LinkedIn, under your job description, you might say, I was responsible for managing an event of 500 people. And, you know, here's how I went about it with an enthusiastic attitude, etc. So you can give a little bit more life and a little bit more personality on your LinkedIn profile. For the photo, if it is full length, are you able to crop it like you can on Facebook to show? Yes, you are able to crop it. I can do that, show you really quickly. Let me jump over here to screen share. I'm going to get good at this eventually. So you can see right here that you're able to crop it. I mean, it's within a certain parameter, but you are able to crop it. If I, you know, wanted to make it just my eye, for example, I could do that. So yeah, well, definitely able to crop it like you do on Facebook. All right. Is it okay to use some of the content I wrote on my website on LinkedIn? For example, use my About Me page in the summary section. Yeah, I would imagine. I would want to take a look at your website, but I would imagine that would probably be a great way to go about it. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. LinkedIn requires a job title and company. For us unemployed job seekers, what would you recommend we put in there? Oh, good question, Linda. I actually wrote that out somewhere here. I'll find that one for you. I'm just going to make myself a note. So exact wording for job description unemployed. And I will post that in the group because I did write down exactly what I thought would be a good input there. So I'll get back to you on that one, Linda, if that's all right. Would prescription sunglasses that darken in sunlight count as sunglasses to agencies? It's up in the air on that one. I would say if you can be in a well-lit area when you're taking your photo, that would actually be better so that, you know, your glasses don't go dark at that point. So I would just say be concerned or be conscious of your lighting. Most of the time you can tell, but again, it's going to be completely up to that recruiter or that company if they say, oh, I can't see their eyes, so I'm not going to trust them or whatever it may be. So I would say try to avoid that by going in a well-lit area when you take your photo. Hopefully that's helpful. So I think I've answered all the questions on the Q&A. Feel free to send in any more. Otherwise, post those. I'll start a discussion in the LinkedIn group and happy to continue this conversation. Like I said, LinkedIn is a beast, and so we could spend several hours talking about that. Linda, did you have anything to add at all?
No, I thought that was, I think you covered everything really well.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you all for staying on. I know we went way over time. These are two massive topics, so we appreciate it. Any questions you think of or want to continue discussing, post those in the group, and we are excited to hear from you.
And the goal is to work on your resume over the weekend. We'll send you information about where to submit it, but hopefully we can get that you to submit it by Monday so that we can divide that up.
Perfect. Thanks you all for tuning in again. So glad we got the Q&A working. It was great to see your interactions throughout, and we love that you joined us.
Yes, absolutely. Have a great weekend, everybody.